Um, of course, Vinod is the founder of MyLogic, one of our esteemed partners in India for CMA and CPA, and now we are looking to roll out CFA as well with them.
Wonderful. Great to have you as a partner. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. Looking forward to it.
No, thanks to you, Peter. Thanks for accommodating. I know your schedules. Thanks for accommodating and supporting our aspirants. Really thanks to you and Shubir for making this happen.
No, Vinod, he just pretends to be busy. Just don't.
All those videos are recorded by an avatar of me. People don't realize that. It's an avatar.
Today it is incidentally festival time in India, Shubir. So
sure.
It's a regional festival called Vishu. Then connected with many different states have similar. It's a starting of a new year. Symbolizing the new year.
Yes.
So that's
Happy
why
New Year.
New Year. So in different geography, regional ways, there is a New Year festives happens. So in Kerala, this is called as Vishu. In Tamil, it is called as Tamil New Year. Like that, different geographies. It symbolizes starting of that regional calendar. Like how we have the Jan begin. So regional calendar begins here.
Sounds very festive. Must be a great time of year to visit.
Indeed.
We could give you an overview, Peter, of the over 1,000 festivals we have in India, but maybe for another time.
I love it. I'm in the wrong country.
Maybe we can wait for a few more minutes, Shubir.
Absolutely, no problem. Let's give it 5 minutes and get some more people coming in. Peter, is that okay with you?
Of course.
Sure.
Shubir, can we start? Shubir, Peter?
Absolutely.
Sure. All right. So, Amrita, Bhumika, we can start. You're on mute.
Me?
No.
No, I mean Peter, you can't mute him. So Vinod, don't even try there. So
I don't have a mute button.
Yeah, he'll find a way to unmute himself. Don't worry.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So good evening, everyone. I'm Bhumika. I welcome you all to the session on Certified Financial Analyst. Welcome you all. I would like to give an intro. CFA is a globally recognized three-level postgraduate professional certification designed for investment and financial professionals. It focuses on advanced investment analysis, portfolio management, and ethics. Now, I would like to welcome the speaker of the day, Mr. Peter Olinto. Peter Olinto, JD, CFA, CPA, is a lead global instructor for UWorld Accounting and UWorld Finance. He passed all 4 sections of Certified Public Accountant exam and all 3 levels of Certified Financial Analyst, CFA, on his first attempt. Peter has taught CPA and CFA exam review courses for more than 25 years, and his teaching videos have been used by more than 300 universities, hundreds of accounting or financial services firms, and by more than 100,000 successful candidates from around the world. Before becoming a CPA and CFA exam instructor, Peter worked as an auditor at Deloitte and, upon graduating from law school, as a tax attorney at EY. Additionally, he started his own law practice where he handled tax, real estate, and estate planning matters. He has a bachelor's in business administration from Face University and Juris Doctorate from Fordham University School of Law. I heartily welcome you, sir.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Welcome everybody. You are in the right place if you are aspiring to be a CFA charter holder. So my credentials, you've heard of Jack of all trades, I'm sure. Well, I'm his cousin Pete. All of these exams have a lot in common. Obviously, there's a lot of information to know for exam day, so it's the volume of information that makes things so challenging. But truth be told, if you are willing and able to put in the time, you most certainly will pass the CFA exam. If we had a two-tailed distribution of the IQs on this call right now, I would venture to guess, and my colleague Shabir would back this up, that my IQ is probably in the left tail, but my work ethic is in the right tail. Quite
Peter,
honestly,
with permission,
yes?
can I take 1 minute before you start? Because I know once you
Sure.
start the flow, I don't want to interrupt. So I also
absolutely.
take this opportunity to extremely happy to welcome Shubir Katu also for this session. Shubir is director of UWorld, our long associate, and have been a wonderful human being, and presently based out of Singapore, and supports us for our various programs. And the moment I mentioned about the particular program, the CFA session we need, without any hesitation, Shubir was the initiator behind this session. And Shubir, to be professionally, I have to say a lot about it, but has experience of more than 2 decades, particularly on the with esteemed organizations similar to UWorld. So thank you so much, Shubir, for making this session happen. Welcoming you also to the session, Shubir.
No. Very kind of you, Vinod. And of course, on behalf of UWorld, we're so proud to have MyLogic as one of our key partners in India, launching CMA and CPA, and of course now looking to establish CFA as well. What you're doing with MyLogic is absolutely wonderful. I see all these lovely posts and success stories from students, and that really makes this whole journey together so satisfying for all of us. Your dedication to your students is tremendous. And, life's about taking important choices. And, any CFA aspirant here, you're coming into an absolute winning combination, joining MyLogic, that's going to be powered by, UWorld content and materials. And we just look forward to an engaging session. If you have questions, please put them in the chat as well. And, we can, one of the MyLogic moderators will go through this. If anybody has the speaker on, please unmute yourselves because there's some background noise. But otherwise, we look forward to a very engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubir.
Yep,
Peter, thank you so much.
Place themselves on mute. Do we still have the background noise? Nope, it's gone.
They only do that when I speak, Peter, because
that was actually me with the background noise, trying to drown you out. Sorry, Shabir. Well, once again, thank you everybody for having us. You're in the right place if you aspire to be a CFA charter holder. So if you have an MBA from a top 10 school, even I would say the top 20, the CFA would be optional. But assuming you do not have an MBA from one of those top schools, this is how you make yourself competitive in this marketplace. The CFA is the gold standard in finance. I think if you've spent a lot of time, money, and effort getting a degree in finance, you need to finish the job. I make the analogy, it's the equivalent in the US of going 3 years to law school and then never passing the bar exam, right? So why would you ever do that? Why would you invest all that time and money? Similarly, if you have that degree in finance and you want to maximize the return on investment, both financially and in terms of opportunity, this is your pathway to do so. Charter holders occupy a wide range of investment decision-making roles. So you want to be excited about this process in terms of the opportunity. So if you aspire to be on the buy side, the sell side, any corporate or advisory type position, you're in the right place. CFA charter holders, if you look it up, portfolio managers, what are you going to often see after their last name? CFA, hedge fund managers, private wealth managers, equity research analysts, manager of managers, brokers, you name it. Those who are excelling in the profession more often than not are going to have those 3 letters after their last name. So, with that being said, I think one of the things I want to stress is like, how do you pass any of these exams, right? When you have this mountain of information, what is it that's really required of you, to put in that time and effort? Number one, you need a good plan, and you need a good partner to oversee that plan with you. A lot of what we do is support our candidates because everyone is an individual. As I go through the content on the CFA exam, some of that you may be familiar with, but there may be content on that exam that you're not as familiar with. You don't have to have been an A student in university, certainly, but there are areas where you're going to be stronger, areas where you'll be weaker. So putting together a study plan that addresses your strengths and weaknesses is part of that process, right? And you have a partner who's going to help you do that, making sure you're investing the right amount of time. So the CFA Institute says for any level of the CFA, you're looking at approximately 300 hours to study for any level of that exam. That's why before you do anything, you have to look at the financial opportunity and the career opportunity so you are properly motivated and understand why it is you're putting in that time and effort. And it's the old adage, no pain, no gain. If it weren't a very high barrier to entry into being a CFA charter holder, it wouldn't have the value that it has, right? So that's why it is, in fact, the gold standard. But the 300 hours is an average. So depending upon your background, you may need more, you may need less. Many of you may be in university. I'll talk about that. You can actually study for level 1 as well as level 2 and take those exams while still in school. Level 3, you have to have a bachelor's degree. But for levels 1 and 2, you could still be in school. So you might be already working full time. So how is it that you're going to find the time to put in 300 hours, right? So you do a little simple math. Can you give me 10 hours a week? 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday, a couple of hours during the week. But if you could find me 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, you're going to spread this over 7.5, 8 months, and you will be properly prepared. Slow and steady wins the race. Any of these exams, CFA, CPA, bar, require an approach where you understand you're not cramming for this. I'll have people say, oh, Pete, I think maybe I'll take 3 weeks off from work and I'll study 100 hours a week for 3 weeks. Well, if you've taken any class in economics, you've heard of the law of diminishing marginal returns. When you start putting in that kind of effort and time, although you're working very hard, obviously the return goes down because by the 8th hour in any day, you're burned out. So, you're looking at 8 months. Now, if you say to me, Pete, hey, I could give you 20 hours a week. Well, then you're cutting that down to 4 months. But generally, to be properly prepared for the CFA at any level, generally, you're looking at that 4 to 8 month type of commitment. And, the study plan is going to involve, somebody like Shabir, somebody on our team who will sit down with you and say, hey, listen, you can't study something in week 1 and not look at it for 3 or 4 months and expect to retain it, right? So a lot of what we're going to recommend along the way, cumulative reviews, because what you study 4 weeks in, 6 weeks in, occasionally you need to take a step back, review that information before you take the next step forward. So it is incredibly important you build that into your study plan. The last couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks before the exam, we don't want you learning anything new. That's where you're completely in review mode. That's where you're doing your final review, which is not as challenging because you've been doing cumulative reviews along the way. And then you're doing multiple mock exams in exam conditions so that you're conditioning yourself for what you're going to be experiencing exam day. And with that being said, you will be sitting down in a computer 4.5 to 5 hours between the break and the exam. So figure 5 hours at least. When was the last time you sat down 4 hours uninterrupted and concentrated doing anything? So part of this whole process, it's a mental marathon. It's building up that mental, ability to sit, concentrate, focus. And the last question you work exam day is just as important as the first question. And either question could be the difference between success and failure. So that's part of what we're going to encourage with that study plan. A lot of our software does beautiful things like, when do you know enough, let's say, about financial statement analysis?
அத்துல்யா பாத்துட்டு வர வந்துக்கிற வரியா அப்படின்னா
Vinu,
Please
can
be
you
on mute.
mute your phone?
Please be on mute. Host, please ensure everyone is on mute. Sorry, Peter. Please continue.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So what I was just saying is, what's very challenging for any of these exams, when I sat for the bar exam to practice law, when did I know enough about criminal law that I could confidently move on to constitutional law and then property law, right? When I studied for accounting, when did I know enough, let's say, about consolidations that I can confidently move on to bonds and then leases? Same thing with the CFA. When do you know enough that you could say, you know what, I can confidently move on from the accounting to the equity, from the equity to the fixed income? So the software will take all the guesswork out and is going to tell you, yes, you are proficient. You can now move on from one subtopic to the next. So step number 1, motivation. Step number 2 is putting together that plan. And I'm going to strongly suggest you talk to my colleagues today on this call, put it in the chat box, ask the question later. Hey, let's set up that appointment so that we can discuss where you are in life, university. Are you working full time? What your curriculum was like in school, your transcripts, what classes you had or didn't have, and let's put together that study plan. But let's talk more about, the program itself. You talk to a lot of professionals out there, and they'll say, hey, can I make myself competitive with those folks who have an MBA? And first of all, the MBA and CFA are not mutually exclusive, obviously. But an MBA obviously requires a lot of time, but a lot more money, significantly higher financial investment than getting your CFA charter. I'll talk to you a little bit about the expenses, but it is a fraction of what you would have to invest in terms of getting an MBA. And there are those who argue that MBA is very academic, but it's not necessarily a practitioner, qualification or credential. Whereas the CFA, because of the nature of the exam and the practical skills modules that they want you to apply, is very much a practitioner credential. And so it's so well respected in the industry. In addition, the CFA program is global. So wherever you are around the world, it's not like the US CPA or I'm a US attorney. No. This is a global credential. Okay, relevant in so many different career paths, relevant all over the world. And it's always adapting to changes in the industry, AI, for example. So we make sure that the curriculum is staying relevant. Whatever is happening today in that investment industry and that we forecast will be happening for the foreseeable future, the CFA Institute makes a concerted effort to make sure that curriculum is constantly evolving, constantly being updated. Now, for my friends who are in university right now, you can sit for level 1 within 23 months of graduation. So in the US, we would call that you a junior, a third year student in university. If you pass level 1, boy, is that going to be important to put up on LinkedIn. There's a little badge that you put up on LinkedIn that shows you passed level 1, you're now a level 2 candidate. That is going to significantly enhance your application, your resume, as you're applying for coveted internship positions before you graduate. You can sit for level 2 once you've passed level 1 in your final year of university. So why is that so important? Because the truth is, a lot of the content, although it's practitioner based, is still what you're learning right now in academia, and it's fresh in your mind. There's nothing like, while it's relatively fresh in your mind, whether you took that class in financial statement analysis, derivatives, portfolio management, equity, fixed income, if you're learning that in school, but then reviewing that content with us, working CFA level difficulty questions, not only aren't your grades going to suffer, you're not distracted, you're reinforcing that knowledge. You're more likely to get an A in that class in university. And then that information is so embedded, you're going to have no problem applying that exam day. So you can absolutely gain that competitive advantage while in school by showing you're a level 1 candidate, then a level 2 candidate. And again, there's a lot of literature online about the comparison of the CFA and the traditional MBA, and that how the CFA credential, not only being globally recognized, but so well recognized by the investment management firms, by the profession, that makes you extremely competitive for those coveted positions without having to put in all the time and effort that it would take financially to get your MBA. So as I mentioned, you're looking at about 300 hours per level, which does vary depending upon, again, it's an average, your background in school and your confidence with certain topics that I'll talk about. But in addition, to make it different than the MBA, to make it more, practical application, there's going to be 10 to 20 hours of what they call practical skills module. It's a hands-on application of the material you're learning. So again, you're getting a return on this investment. Now, how often can you attempt the CFA exam? If you fail a level, by the way, the vast majority of CFA charter holders, given the level of difficulty involved, not that many pass all 3 levels on the first attempt. That's okay. So, it's better. I tell candidates all the time, level 1 sets your foundation. You'd be better off failing it, repeating it, and mastering it versus barely passing level 1, because that's your foundation for both levels 2 and 3. So if you fail a level, you can take an exam twice in a calendar year, but not in consecutive windows. So I'll talk about when level 1 is given, but if you fail level 1, you couldn't sit in the next window. You'd have to wait a window. Or if you pass level 1, you couldn't immediately sit for level 2 in the next window. You'd have to wait to the following window. Now, there is a cap on the number of times you can fail any exam level. So they've set that as a maximum of 6 attempts at any level. And if unfortunately you couldn't pass within those 6, you would no longer be part of the CFA program. But I've yet to meet a candidate who's been in that position. People who have no plan or a poor plan are generally the folks who wind up failing an exam and then have to resit for it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the content at levels 1, 2, and 3. So level 1, your content is made up of ethics, which is in all 3 levels, quant, which is in all 3 levels, economics, which is in all 3 levels, and that's macro, micro, and global, financial statement analysis, which is in levels 1 and 2, but not level 3, corporate finance, levels 1 and 2, equity, levels 1, 2, and 3, fixed income, levels 1, 2, and 3, derivatives, forward, futures, options, swaps, hedging, risk management, levels 1, 2, and 3. Alternative investments, your real estate, your hedge funds, your venture capital, your private equity, levels 1, 2, and 3. And then portfolio management, levels 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, as I mentioned, the foundation you set in level 1 is going to pay dividends in levels 2 and 3. But here's the key. Most candidates get very intimidated when they hear that list of exam topics, right? It seems really overwhelming. Well, that goes towards my point of spreading this out between 4 and 8 months by the sheer, nothing in and of itself is that incredibly difficult, right? But it's maintaining and reviewing. It's like a final exam for 2 years worth of college information. You just need more time to prepare for that. But the other thing is a properly prepared candidate, specifically who takes our course, and I will brag about this, sees the connection between the topics. They are not a bunch of disjointed topics. Like all of the information you learn in quant, you're going to apply in asset valuation. You're going to apply in portfolio management. We introduce a concept, a formula that later on is applied. So what we do is cross-reference. We're going to say, hey, this time value of money formula, or maybe we're learning about correlation coefficient or coefficient of determination, or maybe we're learning regression. Whatever it is, we're going to point out that, hey, you're going to see that again when we get to fixed income or portfolio management. Okay, a lot of the accounting, you're going to learn about the income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. Why? Because if you're a fixed income or equity analyst, how are you going to determine whether or not a company is credit worthy? And if so, what their cost of borrowing should be? If you're doing fundamental analysis, trying to determine rationally, what should this stock be trading for? Should it be a buy, sell, or a hold? What are you looking at? The income statement to determine performance and operating risk. The balance sheet to determine financial risk, short-term risk, long-term risk, capital structure. Why are you looking at the statement of cash flow? Can I believe what's on the income statement? Because it's going to help me determine quality of earnings. Because if I don't see the cash being generated by the accrual basis earnings, I don't think I believe in that accrual basis earnings. And a lot of valuation is driven not by what's on the income statement, but the cash you could generate from your operations, which then turns into free cash flow for the firm or for the investors. There's all this overlap. Like in corporate finance and accounting, you're looking at debt and equity from the perspective of the entity raising the capital. They issue the capital. They need those funds to buy their assets, to run their operations, right? Their cost of capital is dictated by who? That equity investor, that fixed income investor who's trying to determine the risk they're assuming, and then they want to be compensated for that risk. So that determines their required rate of return, which in turn determines to the entity what their cost of capital is. You see, it's learning the same information, the flip side of the coin. So accounting, corporate finance, equity, and debt is really one big topic that you look one side from the issuer who raises the capital, and then the other side from the investor who supplies that capital. You learn about all these different types of risk management techniques. Like you're an airline. What are we watching? The cost of fuel go up. Well, if I think the cost of fuel is going up, can I just sit idly by and watch that cost go up and drive down my earnings? Of course not. If you're forecasting a higher cost for your raw materials, your inventory going forward, you can buy forward of futures contracts. You can say, well, you know what? If that cost does go up, the profit I use on that derivative could offset the cost of my purchasing that commodity at some point in the future. So again, you'll see a lot of overlap once again with you have a receivable, you export your goods abroad. You export to the US, you have a receivable denominated in the US dollar. Can you sit idly by and watch the US dollar fall in value and do nothing? No, of course not. You've got to do something about that. So maybe I'm going to sell contracts on the US dollar. I'm going to short the dollar so that if the dollar does fall in value, I can use that profit to offset the reduction in value of my receivable. You see how it's connected? Portfolio management, getting to know who your client is, a high net worth individual. Treating people fairly does not mean treating them the same. We all have unique needs and circumstances. A lot of overlap with your ethical obligations to your client. No self-serving investment advice, right? Doing right by your client and doing your due diligence. We don't all 100% give good advice all the time. Are you going to be sued for malpractice, negligence? not so long as you did your due diligence, what is required before you give investment advice? What kind of research do you have to do to support your opinion? Lots of people have a security as a buy. Others have it as a hold. Who's right? Who's wrong? We'll eventually find out. But does that mean all the people who are wrong are going to be sued by their clients? They could be, but not successfully, so long as they did their due diligence. So you will learn about managing a portfolio for an individual. Maybe you're managing a portfolio for a bank, or maybe you're managing a portfolio for an insurance company, or a foundation, or a pension fund, or a sovereign wealth fund. So all of that portfolio management requires the skills you learn in accounting, economics, equity, fixed income, alternative investments. We don't just invest in stocks and bonds, right? We maybe want to invest in some private equity, some hedge funds. Maybe we want to invest in real estate. So this is the beauty of this curriculum. Level 1, you set your foundation. You learn a little bit about everything. But in level 2, we don't really add any new topics. No. We just do a much deeper dive into those topics. So, for example, like in equity, in level 1, we pretty much say, well, it's a mature company that regularly pays a dividend. Okay, you can use a dividend discount model. But level 2 says not all companies pay dividends. What if they don't? Well, then maybe we're going to use a free cash flow model. What if they don't have free cash flow? They have very high expenditures. Maybe we'll use a residual income model, or maybe we'll use some kind of multiple. Justified multiple of earnings, of book value, or maybe we'll compare the target company to the peers. It just becomes a much deeper dive. Level 1 is all multiple choice. Level 2 now is a combination of multiple choice, but with a vignette format. What's a vignette? Rather than individual multiple choice, let's give you several, paragraphs of information or several financial statements to look at, and then have more than one question addressing that set of facts. That's a vignette. That's a case. That's what you'll have at level 2. So it requires you to be able to process all that given information and then answer the 2, 3, 4 questions that are attached to that. Level 3 is now vignettes like you had in level 2, but then what they call constructed response. It's not really an essay per se, but it's what they call a constructive response. Or maybe you'll have to draft, an investor policy statement. Maybe you'll have to show a calculation on how you came up with this company's, this bond's true yield. Never mind the initial yield to maturity. No, because we didn't invest all the coupons at that initial yield. We invested at a different rate. And I didn't hold the bond to maturity. So how do we get the actual yield, given the fact that you didn't hold it to maturity and you vested the coupons at a rate different from your initial yield to maturity? So level 3 is also unique because they say, listen, we're going to give you a choice of the pathway. Not everybody wants to do the same thing in this profession. So they're going to say, hey, are you mostly interested in portfolio management? You can go that route. Or if not for you, you could do private markets or private wealth. All right. So they give you those various choices. Now, exam results. Levels 1 and 2, usually 2 months. Level 3, because of the constructive response, generally going to take closer to 3 months to get those results. Practical skills modules are required at all 3 levels because we want to show your current or potential employers that you didn't just learn a bunch of academic information that you don't know what to do with. No. We know exactly what to do with this information because all along this path, you've been doing practical skills, which then are many times brought up in an interview. What pathway did you choose? What skills module did you choose? Okay, so there's lots of ways of showing that this academic information is going to be applied on the job. All right, and you've got all of those different pathways that I mentioned earlier. So whether you're in any kind of investment decision role, sell side, buy side, advisory position, you want to be a private wealth manager, you want to be an equity research analyst, you want to be a credit analyst, fixed income analyst, a broker, this is the credential to have in the industry. So you will be very satisfied with the return on your investment. Okay, now, insofar as the course goes, how do we set everything up? Well, step number 1, like I said, is putting together your study plan. So we have software that's going to, look at what's your plan. Hey, Pete, I'd like to sit for the exam on this particular date. Is this doable? Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, depending upon the average number of hours you have available to study each and every week. Then we're going to help build in those cumulative reviews along the way, all part of the process, okay? So that's step one. Now, level one, given 4 times a year, all right? So 4 times a year. When are you going to start studying for the exam? Whatever your target date is, subtract 8 months, that's where you should begin your studies, okay? Level 2, you'll have 3 opportunities. Level 3, you have 2 opportunities, but that is subject to change, okay? If you pass a level, you cannot sit immediately in the next window. You have to wait. But theoretically, it is possible that you can get all 3 levels. I mean, if you really had the time, you could get all 3 levels done in 18 months. But that's extremely ambitious. All right. Historically, when level 1 was given once or maybe twice a year, same thing with levels 2 and 3, it took somebody maybe 5 or 6 years to get their CFA charter. Okay. So again, 18 months is possible, but that's not under the bell curve. You would be in the right tail. To be under the bell, you're probably looking at 3-4 year commitment, because maybe you get very busy at work. But I took off time after I passed levels 1 and 2. I got married. I had 2 children. So I took like 3 years off when my kids were little, and I didn't study for level 3 until my kids got into, their preschool program. I didn't want to miss that time. Then I studied for level 3. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to get to that finish line. Now, the cost, I'd like you all to go to cfainstitute.org. You'll learn all about the 400 testing centers located in major cities all around the world. Okay, so where you physically sit for the exam is up to you. So you got 400 different testing centers. And again, it is computer-based. So our software, the interface, is going to mirror exactly what you will see exam day. The CFA program costs vary by level. What's unique about level 1, you pay this one-time enrollment fee that only gets paid at level 1. But then you actually pay to sit for the exam. There's an early registration fee. You're looking at approximately $1,000 US, give or take a few bucks. But it goes up by like another $300 if you do the quote-unquote standard registration. Again, we can help you with this. Don't donate that extra $300 US to the CFA Institute. If you got an extra $300 laying around, I'll give you my address. You can mail it to me. So talk to us. Let's get you in the early registration so you're not unnecessarily paying those fees. Level 3 is more expensive, a little bit more expensive, a couple of $100 US more than what it is for levels 1 and 2. But the registration process is at cfainstitute.org. And that's where you can see all the up-to-date fees and the 400 testing centers that are offered all around the world. Okay. After registration is complete, there's a place, it's called Prometric. That's where you will physically take the exam. So then once you get your permission from the CFA Institute that, hey, your registration is complete, most importantly, they have your money. Once they have your money and you're eligible, then you can schedule your exam date with Prometric. Study materials, we've got you covered. You don't need to buy a derivatives textbook, an accounting textbook. We're going to teach you everything you need to know. Now, the default rule for accounting is IFRS, but they also test a lot of US GAAP. But no worries. We realize around the world, a lot of people study IFRS. We will cover the US GAAP or vice versa. Although we're called a review course, the truth is we don't assume prior knowledge. Because rarely do candidates claim to be an expert or have taken classes in all those different disciplines. So we've got you covered. But your study plan, anything that you're more familiar with is truly a review. Less confident in that topic, the first time you go through it, you're learning it. Be patient. The second time you go through it, you're reviewing it. Then as you practice the questions, that's when you begin to master it. Now, what we do in our course, very different than the Institute. We want to make sure that we're building that body of knowledge. So we start with basic level of question difficulty, more moderate, then more advanced. Now, you're required to buy the CFA Institute materials. No worries. We incorporate the end of chapter questions. We have these boot camps that will go over a lot of the end of chapter questions in the software, because a lot of times, like I said, the authors unfortunately don't collaborate. So you might spend a lot of time learning a particular concept and not realize that you're going to see that again in another month or two. We will connect the dots for you. A lot of times the detailed explanatory answers in the Institute, they'll tell you A is right, but they don't explain why B and C are wrong. We will do that. Sometimes their explanation is very short. It doesn't walk you through step by step by step. That's the value we add. Okay, so we've got you covered A to Z. Now, the CFA Institute readings are very, very dense. You know, God bless these authors, but they're writing as if that was the only topic being tested on the exam. And if I only had to study for the accounting or only study the economics, that level of depth wouldn't be such a challenge. But I'm like, my goodness, I got to move on. How am I going to spend all this time reading this amount of information? No. So what we do is streamline it, cut right to the chase. And we're going to make sure you spend 100% of your study time on the 90% of content that has the highest probability of being tested, the core concepts. Because that 10% minutia, and you don't know necessarily that it's minutia, trivial pursuit, let them keep those points. That will never cause you to pass. But if you are unnecessarily distracted by that level of minutia and detail, that can cause you to miss the core concepts. And now you're not going to be properly prepared exam day. So we keep you focused on those core concepts that you need to know for exam day. Now, CFA Institute, they're very good with supplying you, lots of information about not only the exam, but I encourage you as part of the process to be motivated to put in this time and effort. They will reference lots of articles written about the benefit of the charter, average income being earned in different positions around the world, the largest employers of CFA charter holders around the world. You want to talk about an impressive list? Go to cfainstitute.org and look at who those employers are and look at the kind of money that a CFA charter holder makes. And not only the base, but the potential bonus. Now, can I sit here and guarantee you're going to be a millionaire? Of course I can't do that. There are lots of people without CFA charter holders who are doing incredibly well because they had connections or they went to Harvard or Wharton or Chicago, wherever it may be. Okay, but there's a lot of people out there who went to those schools and for the first few years, they benefited from the name of that MBA. But if they can't produce on the job, they don't have those practical skills, eventually they're going to plateau. Now, you look at the CFA charter holders and you look at the doors that are open to them and the opportunity, that I can guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you. Two people applying for the same position, neither one of them went to Harvard, and you're both applying for that same position, but you're a charter holder and the other candidate is not, I can guarantee you that more often than not, you're getting that interview, you're getting that job opportunity. When it comes to finances, financially, two people, same work experience, one with the charter, one without, I can guarantee you that it is far more likely than not that CFA charter will expose you to greater income potential than somebody without the charter. It's all about improving your position to have more opportunities to make more money. I mean, and I don't know about you, I'm a capitalist pig. I want a return on my investment for all this time and effort. Again, do the due diligence. CFA Institute obviously is not independent. It's biased. Do your own independent research about what those three letters will provide for you the rest of your career. It's not 1 year. For the next 30, 35, or 40 years of your career, you do not want to be stuck in a position you're not enjoying. So that's why you are willing and you need to be able to put in the time and effort and make this happen. So I'm willing to take questions, my friends. Any questions what we might have along the way or anything I didn't address that you all want to ask me, I'm happy to take.
Peter, during registration, I had few questions received. Probably for the interest of it, I'll read out those questions. So maybe we can start with that and then new questions, we can go to that. One of the question was whether you are expected to have practical experiences during your level 3, so when you're preparing for level 3, are you expected to have practical experience in similar industries, or you can directly go and take exams?
Yeah, so some people will have the experience before they sit. They'll start getting the experience while they're sitting, or the CFA Institute is encouraging, realizing you're still at university, you have no work experience. The only qualification to sit for level 3 is that you've passed level 2 and you need to have graduated from university. So they realize a young candidate like that may have not worked at all. You can get your work experience, which is generally 4 years, something involved in the investment decision-making process, which is very broad. Okay, you could go to cfainstitute.org and they will show you all the different types of positions that qualify, meeting that 4-year work experience. But you do not need the work experience to sit for the exam or to sit for level 3. But you will not be awarded the charter until you have not only completed level 3 successfully, but you also have that 4-year work experience. So again, everybody's different. Years ago, when I started the CFA program, the average age of a candidate was pushing close to 30 years old. So the vast majority of those candidates 20, 25 years ago already had their work experience. And back then it was only 2 years. Because the average age of the candidate is getting younger and younger, and they're encouraging folks while in university to sit for the exam, they realize you don't have the work experience yet. But you could get the exams out of the way, get yourself an opportunity to get a better job than you would have otherwise in the investment management industry, get your work experience, and then get your charter.
So to answer that, so even if there is somebody without practical experience, will be able to handle level 3. That way I can continue.
That is correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because we cover all the content necessary to pass the exam. Plus, while it's not graded, you are required to do those practical skills modules, which are wonderful because it does give you a feel of how you would apply that information on the job. Yes, sir. But you do not need work experience to sit for level 3. It wouldn't hurt, but actually sometimes it does, because the world, according to the CFA Institute, is sometimes different than the way things are done in practice, or a lot of the rules in ethics. You have to hold yourself to the higher standard between what the CFA Institute requires or what your country requires or state, right? So a lot of times your country might have a rule that requires a higher standard than what the CFA, you're responsible for knowing the CFA Institute rules. But if you also know, like I had a problem sometimes with the law because I knew US securities law, but that's different from the ethics the CFA Institute, right? So I had to answer the question, not according to U.S. securities law that I knew inside and out. I had to learn the CFA Institute ethics. So no, experience is not required to sit for level 3 at all.
Next question again from another candidate named Shreya. The question, exam toughness at each level, level 1, level 2, level 3, how the exam toughness you could measure, and connected to that,
So in my experience, usually level 1 with the right investment of time and effort is generally not a barrier, right? Most people, if they put in the time, level 1 is not the issue. The issue becomes either level 2 or 3. And so what I tell young students who are still in university, you must take multiple classes in accounting, because you are not doing equity or fixed income unless you understand the income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. You need to understand multinational operations, consolidations. This requires you, in my opinion, use your electives wisely, because if you're a traditional finance major, like for example in the US, I don't know about India, but in the US, they're only required to take like a class in financial accounting, which is like bookkeeping. That's not, they don't do debits and credits and journal entries. No, that's for the accountants. But understanding the use of the financials, how they could be misleading, how you use the financials to calculate certain ratios, how you look at a company holistically using the variety of financial statements. If you don't have that experience and you don't have those accounting classes, level 2 often becomes the big hurdle for those traditional finance majors who are weak in accounting. Okay, I didn't have that experience. My strength was accounting. But what I did not have was the portfolio management experience. I never managed a pension fund, a hedge fund, a portfolio for a high net worth individual. So for me, I put in my most time studying for level 3. And ironically, I was in the top 10% when I passed level 3. Because I, again, that being nervous about that not being my background, I probably overstudied. But and as you mentioned, I'm fortunate. I've never retaken an exam, and it's not because I'm smarter than anybody out there. I want to do it once. I want to do it right. I want to have a good plan, and I want to stick to that plan. So level 2, you need to allocate more time, and you could do it. But if you have not had a strong accounting background at university, you're probably going to need an extra 100 hours to pass level 2 because you got to learn a lot of that accounting, how to account for a pension, multinational operations, consolidations, investments. There's a lot involved. It's doable, but extra time will be required at level 2. For folks out there who have a strong accounting background like myself, you're probably going to need the extra 100 hours in level 3 because it just wasn't part of our university curriculum to be studying a lot of the portfolio management.
I have 2 more questions which was pre-registered. One question is, how's technology like AI, fintech, blockchain reshaping the role of CFA professional? Connected to that, one more question. Lakshmi is from finance background. So whether this technological topics involves more of technological aspects, that was a question.
Well, listen, AI is going to be a tool. I don't think it's going to replace us, but I think it's going to be a very valuable tool. So the CFA Institute wants to certainly and have you understand how to use that tool, how it could be an asset, how it could be a liability if you're misapplying that tool. Look, you need to know what questions to ask. The AI is only as good as the information you're feeding it, right? So are you asking the right questions? But the AI can do a lot of grunt work, which is something that maybe as a new hire or an intern would have been doing. But a lot of the judgment and analysis is still going to be done by that individual portfolio manager. I don't think the average individual or pension fund, the people who sit on the board, a hedge fund, they still want that interaction, that human interaction, that personal touch. But there is a lot of information on the CFA Institute website about how they're incorporating AI into the curriculum and how to use that to more quickly gather the relevant information you need to make a more informed decision about the buy, the sell, the hold. But look, a lot of behavioral finances, the world is not rational. We're not computers. People buy, they overbuy. The computer sometimes, has a hard time, why are we acting irrationally, right? What do they call rational economic man? Not everybody is rational economic man. So I think that it's a combination of skills, just like 60, 70 years ago, incorporating, the calculator and then the computer, and the AI will be another tool along the way. But I strongly suggest you read on the CFA Institute website about what they're doing to bring that into the curriculum, because it's constantly evolving to make sure that you can, make the most of the use of those tools.
So there was one last question that may be relatively easier question. What kind of roles truly benefit for CFA designation, whether it is a portfolio management or investment banking or with respect to core corporate finance? This was my last question on the pre-registered.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, historically, if you look at the program, it was more limited in terms of, the equity research analysts were generally the CFA charter holders. But as I mentioned, the buy side, the sell side, the credit analyst, fixed income analyst, portfolio managers, hedge fund, mutual fund, private equity, venture capital. Look, people in the industry realize, just like if you're hiring an accountant and you know better, you don't want an accountant. You want a certified public accountant. If you have a high net worth individual who's educated, they know they want a CFA charter holder. I'm not knocking a certified financial planner, but they are not in the same universe as a CFA charter holder, just like an enrolled agent in the US who does tax is not a CPA. So there's a different level of respect. And people who, because the CFA Institute does a great job of also educating the marketplace that, look, we're going to make sure that these candidates understand how to apply this, whether it be financial planning, Python programming fundamentals, to make sure that data science, that AI is all now part of the curriculum. While it's not part of the tested curriculum, you are still required to invest 10, 20 hours or more to make sure you're understanding how to apply this in the workforce. Developing a portfolio, constructing a portfolio. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was in law school, can you believe this? They never taught me how to fill out a summons and complaint. It is a sin that 3 years of law school, I did not have the practical skill to learn how to do a summons and complaint. Now, certainly I could learn that after the fact, but talk about frustration that I invested all that time and money, and yet I lacked those practical skills. So again, I encourage everyone listening, go to the CFA Institute, look at what's called the practical skills modules, where you get a choice: the AI, the data science, the Python, the financial modeling, developing a portfolio, whatever it may be. You have an opportunity to also find what you might have more of a passion for, so that you can have make a more informed decision when you sit for level 3, what pathway you want to go for, where you think your career is going to take you. So really, I think the CFA Institute has done an outstanding job in making sure that this is a combination of the academic knowledge and then the ability to apply that knowledge. It's amazing.
There was questions from the pre-registered. Now questions open to the floor. We have few more minutes left for the session. Anybody having any questions, please feel free to ask. These are
and while we're waiting for the questions to come in, I also want to encourage everybody to look into whatever major city you're closest to. The CFA society, the local society in your major city, would be an outstanding resource for you to mingle with CFA charter holders who have all those different positions that you might be interested in, investment banking, whatever it may be, so that you can learn from them, network, and get excellent advice, career advice, exam advice. How did you do it? So that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So look at your major city you're closest to and look at the local CFA chapter. You want to become a member.
Got it, Peter. Over to you guys. Feel free to ask questions. You can put it in chat box, or you can unmute and ask questions, please.
Well, I just want to throw it out there. I'm on LinkedIn. My name again is Peter. My last name is Olinto, Olinto. I'm always happy to take your questions. My colleague Shabir is also up on LinkedIn. Obviously, anything and everything we can do with our partner to make sure you all successful. Are you going to put up a QR code or anything with your information for them to contact you directly?
Peter, from our side, they'll typically contact MyLogic, who'll route everything to us.
So they already have the link by virtue of registering this. Yeah. They have MyLogic. Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Sure, Peter. I think that's what all about it. I think thank you for your time and energy to put across for this session in short notice. And whatever we could not set a pre-agenda for this. I regret that we could have made it a little more advanced, but I'm sure this particular session has given insight with respect to particularly on the CFA related exam approach part, which is the level 1, level 2, the toughness level, and how they can approach it. So that has given a lot of insights. We will pass on your LinkedIn ID to students. So whoever have questions will be able to reach out to you and shoot questions directly as well. And we will take questions offline. If anybody have any questions, we will, like the registration time, how we did it, we will consolidate it.
Absolutely. Just let us know any further questions coming through, and we'd be happy to support the students. It's a big decision for them. It's a large undertaking. It's typically the fastest you can do it in 18 months, but that's a very rare case anyway. People are spending 3, 4, 5 years, across the 3 levels. It's a big investment decision for them. But boy, oh boy, does it pay off if you have those lovely 3 letters behind your name. But if you have further questions, before they undertake this massive commitment, let us know. And it's so important. So coming to a right partner like MyLogic that's powered by UWorld is really going to keep them, well ahead of the curve in terms of studying correctly, just like Peter mentioned, with the exam plan, with all the resources, with all the linkages from all the various topics, learning from the wrong questions and the right questions and everything our beautiful software does. But also MyLogic's amazing instructors. So they have this beautiful blended solution to go through and pass, and we will be with them every step of the journey. So looking forward to that together, and hopefully some people on this call and celebrating your success as CFA charter holders in the future. And as Pete will say, he'll buy you a coffee when that's done. So, and if he doesn't, I will. So we look forward to that journey. And Pete, thank you so much for your time today. And we know it's always lovely to see you and the MyLogic team, and looking forward to many more sessions together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having. You can and you will do it. Slow and steady wins the race. Make the commitment, invest the time, and you will never, ever regret the time and effort you put into getting your CFA charter. Wish you guys all the best of luck. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you, Shubhi, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.